She thought she had hit rock bottom. Everyone, including herself, was sure she would sink. Every door she knocked on seemed to close. Every plan she made felt like it was crumbling. And then, something happened that no one expected. Something that would change her life forever. But the question is, will she survive the storm? Will she rise when everyone counts her out? Or will the waves finally pull her under? Let's pray. Lord, as this story begins, reach every heart that needs hope. Strengthen those who feel like they are sinking. Give courage to those surrounded by fear. Restore faith to those who feel forgotten. Let this story be a reminder that no storm is greater than you, and no wave is strong enough to stop what you have destined to rise. Amen. Before we continue, I want to ask you to subscribe to Dechristory. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and comment below to tell the world how this story blesses you. Let's spread this message of faith, courage, and resilience to every corner of the globe, because someone out there is waiting to be inspired just like you. Stay with me until the very end, because this story will not just inspire you, it will ignite a fire in your soul to swim even when the world thinks you'll sink. Now the full story. She used to think storms announce themselves politely with dark skies, rumbling clouds, and a warning wind. But life's deepest storms rarely come with such courtesy. Sometimes they arrive disguised as ordinary days. And that was exactly how our own flood began. It was a Monday morning in June, humid and heavy, the kind of morning where the air feels too thick to breathe. She woke up early, partly because of the heat, mostly because sleep had been avoiding her for weeks. Bills were stacked on her table like mocking soldiers. Her phone buzzed with messages she didn't want to open, and the mirror had been reminding her daily of how tired she looked and how lost she felt. For months, everything in her life had been falling apart faster than she could gather the pieces. The small business she had poured her heart into, more like poured her whole life into, had crashed almost overnight. A partnership betrayal here, a financial blow there, and before she knew it, she was drowning in problems deeper than the ocean itself. And the worst part, everyone saw it coming except her. She's in over her head. She took on more than she could handle. She's going to sink. Just watch. Words travel fast, especially when spoken behind your back. But pain travels faster, especially when it hits the heart directly. That morning, she received a call that felt like the final blow. "Good morning," the bank official said. "We are calling regarding your loan." She didn't need to hear the rest. Her heart heard it before her ears did. They were coming for everything. The business, her equipment, her last line of income, her last breath of hope. She quietly thanked the caller, hung up, and sat still on the edge of her bed. The room looked different, darker, smaller, heavier. It felt like gravity itself had doubled. That was the moment she whispered the sentence she had been resisting for weeks. "I think I'm sinking. God, I think this is the end." And she meant it. Everything in her felt empty. Her strength, her faith, her confidence, her reputation all drained like water from a broken jar. She didn't cry at first. She just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling the silent collapse happening inside her chest. But then, without warning, the tears arrived hot, uncontrollable, shaking tears that left her breathless. She cried like someone who had finally stopped pretending to be strong. She cried until the floor beneath her felt cold from the weight of her fear. But storms have strange ways of drawing people into the center of vulnerability. And that was when her mother walked in. She had been staying temporarily, sensing something was wrong long before her daughter admitted it. She stood quietly at the doorway, watching her child drown in silence. "Talk to me," she said softly. Her daughter shook her head. "There's nothing to say." "Then let me sit with you," she replied. And she did. No preaching, no correcting, no pity, just presence. They sat in silence until the sobs slowed into trembling breath. Finally, the truth was whispered aloud. "Mama, I want to give up. Her mother placed a hand on hers. I know, but you won't. It almost sounded unbelievable. I don't have the strength anymore, she said. Then borrow some from God, her mother replied. Her voice was calm, but there was an unshakable firmness to it, the kind of firmness that only someone who has survived her own storms can speak with. You see water, her mother continued, but God sees a path. What path? She asked. Everything is collapsing. No, her mother said. Everything is shifting. Sinking is not always sinking. Sometimes it is the beginning of swimming. The words sounded poetic, even hopeful, but they felt impossible. Still, her mother pressed her hand gently and said something that would echo for months. Child, even when you think you are drowning, God might be teaching you how to breathe underwater. Later that afternoon, she forced herself to step outside. She needed air, though the world didn't feel much lighter. And that was when the whispers began. Neighbors who once greeted her with respect now offered pity-filled smiles, the kind that said, we heard what happened. Someone across the street muttered, she tried, but honestly, everyone knew she would sink. The words stung. But what hurt more was that she believed them. She walked to the park near her house, a place she usually went for clarity. The sun was already dipping lower, painting the sky with streaks of orange. Children played in the distance, their laughter sharp against the quiet sadness inside her. She sat on a bench beneath an almond tree and buried her face in her hands. What do I do now? She whispered. Where do I go from here? She half expected silence, but instead, in that quiet space, a thought whispered into her spirit so clearly it made her breath hitch. This is not your end. Stand up. She lifted her head, startled. Was it her own voice? Was it God? Was it hope crawling back? She didn't know. Before she could analyze it further, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Her life had been filled with unknown numbers, banks, creditors, voices carrying bad news. But something desperation, instinct, grace made her answer. Hello? She said cautiously. A woman's voice responded. Calm, warm, professional. Good evening. Am I speaking with Miss? Yes, she replied. I'm calling regarding a proposal you submitted months ago. We're interested. She froze. Dozens of proposals. All rejected. All forgotten. All buried. But this one had been different. It was her boldest, riskiest idea, something she never expected anyone to consider. We'd like you to come in tomorrow, the woman continued. Your concept is compelling. We believe it has potential. Potential. A word she hadn't heard in months. Before the call ended, the woman added, we reviewed your previous work. You're talented. Don't let one setback make you shrink. It felt as though the words were spoken directly into her wounds. When the call ended, she sat still, heart racing. Moments earlier, she had been ready to give up. Now, something flickered inside her, small, fragile, but real. A spark, a seed, a breath. Fear rushed in immediately. You already sank. It's too late. But then, quietly, another thought rose. Or maybe this is the moment you start swimming. She returned home that evening carrying shaky hope. Her mother was waiting. You look different, she said. I got a call, she replied, still unsure whether to believe it. Her mother smiled. That is how God works. Quietly, suddenly, deeply. She sat beside her and finally allowed herself to breathe. Maybe she wasn't finished. Maybe the flood wasn't meant to drown her. Maybe she had been pushed into deeper waters to discover she was built to swim. But storms do not disappear overnight. And just when she thought the tide was shifting, another wave came bigger, heavier, more dangerous than the last. A wave that would test everything inside her. A wave that would force a decision, sink or swim. And that wave arrived the very next morning. The next morning should have been hopeful. It should have felt like a new beginning after all. It wasn't every day that someone called to revive one of her dead dreams. But hope is a strange guest. It never arrives alone. It brings its shadow, fear, along with it. She woke up before dawn, long before the alarm went off. Her heart was beating fast, too fast, almost as if it were trying to outrun the anxiety gathering in her stomach. Her mind replayed the call from the previous evening again and again, but instead of excitement, doubt had taken the microphone in her head. What if it was a mistake? What if they changed their mind? What if they realize she's not good enough after all? What if she fails again? The word again hurt the most. The morning air was cold as she prepared for the meeting, too cold for June, almost sharp against her skin. It felt symbolic, as though the day itself was warning her that comfort would not come easily. She dressed slowly, carefully choosing the one blazer she owned that hadn't been stained, torn, or faded by the storms of the past year. A soft knock came at her door. "You're up early," her mother said, stepping inside. She nodded. "Do you want to pray before you go?" her mother asked gently. She hesitated. It had been a long time since she had prayed sincerely. Shame clung to her like dust. She felt unworthy, distant, half-broken. Still, she nodded. Her mother took her hands and prayed a simple prayer. No theatrics, no long speeches, just a steady voice saying, "Lord, let her see what you see. Let her remember she is not sinking. Let her remember you walk on water." When she finished, she kissed her daughter's forehead like she was still a child. The part of her that felt small needed that more than she realized. As she stepped out of the house, the warm glow of sunrise stretched across the sky, turning the clouds soft pink. It felt like a quiet reminder that even storms have mornings. But the peace didn't last. The office of the organization that had called her was on the other side of town, and her transportation options were limited. Her car had broken down months earlier, another casualty of her financial collapse, so she relied on public transport. Unfortunately, the city was already buzzing with its usual chaos. She boarded a bus that looked like it had long outlived its retirement. It rattled and screeched like an elderly man complaining about every bump on the road. She sat near the window, clutching her file of document and proposal notes as if they were the last pieces of her dignity. Then life intervened. Midway through the journey, the bus jerked violently. She grabbed the seat in front of her to steady herself. The driver muttered something, slammed the brakes, and the entire bus shuddered to a stop. "We don't burst tire," he announced, half annoyed, half amused. A collective groan spread through the passengers. People began climbing off the bus, grumbling about the delay. She checked the time. 40 minutes to her meeting. 40 minutes. Her heart raced. Panic tightened around her chest. Missing this meeting was not an option. This was her one door, her one chance to prove to herself and to everyone who doubted her that she was not finished. She stepped off the bus and scanned the road. Traffic everywhere. No taxis, no bikes, no help. "God, not today," she whispered. "Please, not today." She began to walk fast, then faster, almost running. Her shoes weren't built for speed. Her legs burned. Sweat trickled down her back despite the cool morning breeze. Cars honked as she dodged through traffic, desperately searching for a quicker route. But the more she rushed, the farther everything seemed to stretch away from her. 50 minutes passed, then 20. Her chest tightened. She stopped beside a tall grey building to catch her breath. That was when fear finally crashed into her like a wave. "You're not ready. You will fail again. You should have stayed home. You're sinking. Stop trying." She leaned against the wall, panting, trembling, the weight of discouragement pressing down on her until it felt suffocating. Tears blurred her vision. It would have been so easy to turn back, so easy to give up. But then, in the middle of her panic, a small voice rose inside her, gentle, quiet, firm. "You didn't come this far to turn back." She wiped her face, took a shaky breath, and forced her legs to move. And when she turned the corner as if God had been waiting for that one stubborn step of faith, she saw it. A bike rider, parked just a few meters away, adjusting his helmet. She waved frantically. "Please, are you free?" He looked up, nodded, and within seconds she was on the back of the bike, flying through the city as though the wind itself had decided to help her. She arrived at the building with 5 minutes to spare. 5 minutes. If that wasn't God, what else could it be? Inside, the lobby was sleek and modern, a sharp contrast to the chaos outside. The air smelled of polished floors and professionalism. She checked in, waited briefly, and was soon led into a glass-walled conference room. A long table, a humming projector, 3 people already seated, reviewing documents. They looked up as she entered. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Her palms were damp despite the air conditioning. One of the women smiled. "Welcome. We've been expecting you." Expecting her. The words steadied something inside her. Introductions were made. Then the questions came. Her proposal, her vision, her past work, her failures, her challenges, her plans. Questions flew like arrows, and then one landed deeper than the rest. The man on the left leaned forward. "Your concept is brilliant," he said, "but we noticed your business struggled. What happened?" The room fell silent. Her stomach twisted. Should she lie? Soften the truth? Pretend the collapse hadn't nearly broken her? Finally, she chose honesty. "I sank," she said. Their brows lifted. "But," she continued, her voice growing steadier, "I didn't realize then that sinking doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes it means the old parts of you are drowning, so stronger parts can rise. I learned more from that collapse than from any success I ever had." Silence. A good silence. The woman in the center nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said. More people need the courage to say that. The meeting lasted nearly an hour. When it ended, she didn't know whether she had won or lost. They thanked her warmly and said they would be in touch. Soon, a dangerous word. When she stepped outside, her legs felt weak. The adrenaline faded, replaced by exhaustion. But beneath the exhaustion was something else. Pride. Not arrogance, not ego, just quiet pride. Because for the first time in a long while, she had shown up fully, honestly, bravely. But storms don't end after one victory. Sometimes, after hope appears, life sends another wave, almost as if asking, "Are you sure you're ready to swim?" That wave hit the moment she got home. Her mother met her at the door. Worry etched across her face. "What's wrong?" she asked. Her mother hesitated. "Someone came earlier." "Who?" "That man. From the bank." Eyes flooded her veins. What did he want? They moved up the repossession date. The word tilted. "They're coming tomorrow." Tomorrow. Not next week. Not next month. Tomorrow. "If you can't pay by morning." Her mother paused, tears shining. "They'll take everything. Her equipment, her documents, her tools, her last chance." Panic surged. She clutched the wall to steady herself. "I don't have the money," she whispered. "I know." That night, she lay awake, staring into darkness, breath shallow, fear heavy. "I can't do this," she whispered. "God, I can't." Silence answered, until a memory surfaced, her mother's voice from years ago. God doesn't remove storms. Sometimes He lets the waters rise, so you learn you were meant to walk, not drown. Walk on water? Then a quiet question followed. What if the wave doesn't come to drown you, but to lift you? She didn't understand it yet, but she would, because the next morning, just when she thought the wave would finally bury her, something happened, something no one expected, not even her. And that was the moment she learned, when everyone thinks you will sink, when even you think you will sink, when the world gives you no room to breathe, that is when God makes a way no storm can erase. That is where swimming begins. She barely slept that night. She drifted in and out of shallow, Restless dreams, each one ending with the same image. Water rising around her, swallowing everything she owned, everything she had worked for, everything she hoped for. By morning, her eyes were swollen, her head throbbed, her heart felt bruised. She sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, clutching her phone as though it were her last lifeline. Today was the day the bank said they would come for everything, her equipment, her documents, her years of investment. Her mother stepped in quietly. "You need to eat something," she said gently. "I can't," she whispered. Her mother sat beside her. "Then at least drink water. You need strength today." Strength, the one thing she didn't feel she had. "I don't have a plan," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I don't have money. I don't have a solution. What am I supposed to do?" Her mother took her hand. "Sometimes the miracle isn't in the plan. Sometimes the miracle is in showing up." "I don't understand." "You will," her mother said. But she didn't. Not yet. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Whatever happens today, remember, sinking is not your portion." If only her heart could believe that. By 9 a.m., she heard it. A knock on the gate. Loud, firm, final. Her stomach twisted painfully. "Mama, they are here." Her mother nodded, her eyes wet. "Go and meet them." Her legs trembled as she walked outside. 2 bank agents and a driver stood waiting, holding folders and clipboards. Their expressions were polite but emotionless, the kind of faces that had delivered bad news so often that it no longer stirred them. "Good morning," the taller agent said. "We are here to begin the repossession process." His words blurred in her ears. "Please, can't you give me more time?" she asked, desperation leaking into her voice. He shook his head. "We already extended your deadline twice. Our instructions are clear." "But I have a pending opportunity," she said quickly. "A meeting yesterday, there's a project. If I get it, I can pay everything I owe." He remained unmoved. "We're very sorry, but unless payment has been made this morning, our order is to proceed." The world tilted. It was happening. Everything was slipping through her hands. "Can you at least give me until noon?" she asked. The agent checked his watch. "We can give you 30 minutes to gather any personal items. After that, we begin loading the van." 30 minutes. 30. Her throat tightened. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall in front of them. This was it. The moment she feared. The moment the flood would finally pull her under. She turned to go inside, and then it happened. Her phone rang. She froze. Unknown number. Again. Her hands shook as she answered. "Hello?" she whispered. A familiar voice replied. "Good morning. This is Grace from yesterday's meeting." Her heart nearly stopped. Yes, I remember. I'm calling." The woman continued. "Because after reviewing your concept again last night and discussing it with the board, we've made a decision." Time stood still. The agent behind her faded into nothing. "What decision?" she asked, barely breathing. A pause followed, the kind that feels endless. Then the words came. "We want to offer you the contract." Her knees almost gave way. "What?" she breathed. "We want to work with you," Grace said warmly. "Your idea is exactly the direction we've been moving toward. We're sending the official documentation and the initial deposit within the hour." Deposit, money, today. Is that enough to begin?" she stammered. "More than enough," Grace replied. "And one more thing, your honesty yesterday was the deciding factor. That level of transparency is rare. You have something special. Don't doubt that." A tear slid down her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. "We look forward to working with you. Congratulations." The call ended. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just stood there as tears fell silently, hot, overwhelming, grateful tears. Tears born from a place deeper than fear, deeper than exhaustion, deeper than pain. Her mother rushed outside when she heard her crying. "What happened? Tell me." She struggled to speak, then finally said, "Mama, I got the contract. Her mother gasped, covering her mouth. Jesus, Jesus, I knew it. I knew you would not sink. She laughed through tears, half sob, half joy as her mother hugged her tightly, crying and thanking God in between whispers. The bank agent watched, confused. One cleared his throat. Is everything okay? She turned to them, wiping her face. Yes, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Everything is more than okay. The funds are coming in today. You don't need to take anything. The taller agent blinked. Ma'am, are you sure? Yes, she replied, smiling through tears. I'm sure. Respect replaced routine indifference in his eyes. In that case, he said gently, we'll report that the situation is resolved. They left quietly, and just like that, the wave passed. The flood calmed, and she was still standing. But the story didn't end there, because that moment, as powerful as it was only the beginning of something deeper. The payment arrived that afternoon. She stared at the notification for nearly a minute, not because she doubted it, but because for the first time in months, it felt like breathing clean air. She paid the bank immediately, every debt, and as she sent the confirmation, she whispered, God, thank you. Thank you for teaching me that delay is not denial. Thank you for letting me sink just enough to learn how to rise. Because the truth was simple. She didn't escape the storm. She didn't avoid the wave. She went through it. Every tear, every fear, every sleepless night, every moment hope slipped through her fingers. And yet, she swam. Not because she was strong, not because she was perfect, not because she had a plan. She swam because God held her when her legs failed. She swam because when her mind said drown, God said rise. She swam because every wave meant to bury her lifted her instead. And as she reflected, one truth became clear. You never know you can swim until the water rises. You never know you can survive until survival is the only option. You never know your strength until strength is all you have left. That storm didn't come to destroy her. It came to transform her. Weeks passed. Work began. And her life started to rebuild, not slowly, but with a grace that felt divine. Doors opened. Connections formed. Ideas flourished. Her confidence returned, not the fragile kind she once had, but a deeper, a steadier confidence born from surviving a storm that should have ended her. One afternoon, after a long virtual meeting, she sat by the window watching the sunset gold melting into deep orange and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not temporary relief. Not shallow optimism, but real, grounded peace. Her mother joined her. You look happy, she said. I am, she replied softly. For the first time in a long time, her mother smiled. Do you understand now what I told you about breathing underwater? She asked. Her mother laughed. Yes, she leaned back. I didn't understand then, but now I do. Because sometimes God doesn't calm the storm first. Sometimes He strengthens His child in it. Sometimes He lets the water rise to reveal hidden strength. Sometimes He waits until the last moment, not because He is late, but because miracles feel different when hope is almost gone. She looked at her mother. Mama, everyone thought I would sink. Yes, even me. Yes, but I didn't. No, her mother whispered. You swam. And she was right. Because once you realize sinking is not your destiny, everything changes. You stop fearing storms. You stop fearing failure. You stop fearing the next wave. Because now you know you can swim. You can survive. You can rise. You can walk on waters meant to drown you. Looking back, she understood why the collapse happened, why the doubt came, why fear had to break her, why the wave rose so violently, why God waited until the last moment. If He had saved her too early, she would have thought it was her strength, but He saved her late enough for her to know it was Him, only Him, always Him. And when people ask how she survived, how she rose, how she kept going when everyone counted her out. She smiles and tells the truth. She thought she would sink. Everyone thought she would sink. The storm thought it would drown her, but God taught her how to swim, and that was the miracle. Not that the storm ended, but that she survived it. Even when everyone, including herself, believed she would drown, she discovered that she could swim, and her story carries a reminder for every listener. No matter how high the waves rise, no storm is stronger than the one who holds our lives in his hands. Let this truth settle in. You are not sinking. You are being trained for survival. You are learning how to swim. Let's pray together. Lord, thank you for touching every life watching this video today. Let your word and this story inspire courage, hope, and faith. Help each viewer to rise above their storms, to swim when they feel they'll sink, and to find victory in every battle. Amen. If this story has blessed you today, I want to ask you to do something special. Take a moment right now to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope. Comment below on how this story has touched your heart. And subscribe to join our growing Dechristory family where lives are changed and hope is restored.